Another day, another document drop. Let's go. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Now, I wasn't even going to really go through these documents tonight, y'all. I really wasn't. I'm tired. It's Friday. I have a lot going on, and I really just wasn't going to. But I opened the declaration from Ann Taylor and noticed the subject matter and how chronologically written it was, and it piqued my interest. So there's no way I'm going to be able to relax until my brain is satisfied with what I have read and gained information-wise, because there's a lot of information here, and I'm curious. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through some of these. I promise this one is not going to be anywhere near as long as the last one. I'm going to not put so much of the legalese in these videos. I know a lot of people want like full document reads, and I completely get that, but honestly, the longer the videos get, the more aggravated I get with myself. So I'm not trying to put these horribly long videos out there, but I also don't want to just come out here and tell you what I'm thinking about something without showing it to you as well. So I'm really just trying to find the perfect mix of that. Just bear with me. We're going to get there. Okay, so we know from the video that I put out yesterday that in the beginning, they were asking for their time to do things, to submit things, to answer to things to be lengthened. And now they have filed motions to shorten time. And the defendant's second motion to compel is what was filed for the motion to shorten time that we went over with yesterday. But before we get into the declaration of Ann Taylor's support of defendant's third motion to compel, I would love to mention that they have also now filed the defendant's motion to shorten time for the third motion to compel itself. So now they have officially filed motions to shorten time for both the second and third motion to compel, which is interesting because, like I said, the meeting is literally like in 2 days, 2 business days. We have the weekend where nothing's going to happen now, and then we have Monday, and then we have Tuesday at 1:30 when these hearings are going to happen. So I'm not really quite sure what all this is about, but maybe we'll be able to figure it out soon. But let's go ahead and open this declaration of Ann Taylor. Now, this thing is 26 pages, and like I said, this video ain't going to be nowhere near as long. Let's see. I, Ann C. Taylor, do state and declare. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger filed a specific request for discovery related to the DNA in this case titled Defendant's Third Supplemental Request for Discovery. The state filed a specific response to that request. After reviewing the materials provided, the following remains to be discovered. So they are about to now list to us what they still do not have. Now, when it comes to the following information, when I read this, it completely blew my mind. So I decided to post a little video of just this information, but I did read it wrong. Now, it is very important, like mind-blowing information, but it wasn't what I thought it was. I originally thought when I read it that there was 3 profiles on the sheath plus 3 additional unknown male profiles, and that was not the case. So I'm going to read it to you correctly and interpret it to you correctly this time. And this is a redo. Everything else in this video is going to be my first interpretation of what I am reading, but I didn't want my original ridiculous reaction to this to be in here because it was not accurate. So, request number 3. Profiles uploaded to a DNA database. The state has provided information related to this request for the seized item, the knife sheath only. So, whatever information pertaining to the DNA database profile, the state has given the defense over some information for this when it comes to the profile that was created from the knife sheath, which is a little bit different than what we were hearing previously, because in the other document, the state stated that they didn't have this information, nor have they seen it, but they do have the conclusion. They just don't have the actual work that should be being shown for what the conclusion is. But they do have the conclusion, which is the family tree that led to Bryan. But then again, they want the family tree completely sealed up for the relative's protection. Anyway, let's continue. The defense has requested all DNA profiles, meaning more than one, including 3 additional unidentified male DNA profiles developed during the course of law enforcement investigation. So, regardless of how whatever, misinterpreted my excitement was before about there possibly being something else somewhere else. There was. There still is 3 unidentified male profiles that was found in the course of this investigation that they still have no answers for. And that could be extremely important to this case. So, okay, back to past me, I guess. I'm sorry if I sound a little ridiculous. Okay, but this is huge. Holy shit. Okay. B, request 6, communications. The state has not provided all emails, text messages, electronic messages, or other messages in conversations regarding biological testing in this investigation. Request 9 and 10, unexpected results and corrective actions. This request has been partially complied with. However, the response lacks the full scope of the request 6 months before and 6 months after testing related to this investigation. Further, information relating to all lab personnel has not been provided. And this is going to mean every single one of those FBI agents who worked on the genealogical information that they didn't write any notes for or take any screenshots for. They're going to want all of that. Part of the third supplemental discovery request was for materials related to genetic genealogy testing. The state has objected to this request in its entirety and has filed a motion for a protective order. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger requests this court consider the contemporaneous objection to the state's motion and declarations in support of the motion to compel. The requested discovery is properly sought pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16. This discovery is necessary to the preparation of Mr. Kohberger's defense. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger has reviewed the materials provided in this case regarding the DNA testing, laboratory reports, bench notes, and photographs. Further, experts in the field of genetic genealogy and DNA have consulted and offered information and guidance. The state acknowledges it used genetic genealogy testing in this case, but claims it does not have to produce the records in the specific request for discovery. The defense disagrees. Me too, Miss Ma'am. Me too, Miss Ma'am. Counsel has learned through consultation with experts and sources referenced below, and the use of genetic genealogy databases does not necessarily lead to a single individual as a potential suspect, and that reports of these searches often reference multiple individuals for further investigation and DNA testing. In fact, the state acknowledges such in its motion for protective order when it acknowledges hundreds of relatives. Page 5, we went over that. Yep. The testing conducted by a private lab is completely different in nature than the testing done by forensic labs. Genetic genealogy labs do not generate a profile in the same way that forensic labs do, and there cannot be a direct comparison between the data obtained in this case by the Idaho State Forensic Crime Lab and the private lab. The tests used by private labs are either SNP, single nucleotide polymorphisms, or whole genome sequencing. These tests are similar to the methods used by commercial services such as 23andMe and Ancestry.com. Based upon information from experts in the field, I have learned that once a genetic genealogy profile is created and the testing by the private lab is completed, the profile is uploaded to a database that contains similar data from other individuals. Once the genetic genealogy profile is uploaded, the profile is compared within that database and relatives are identified. It is my understanding that once possible relatives have been identified, their identities are used to construct a family tree to identify possible suspects using public records and, in some instances, contacting individuals for further family information. Now, see, about a week or so ago, I dropped a video from a girl on TikTok who was contacted by a homicide detective because while they were working a Jane Doe cold case, they ran across her family's information linked to this cold case. And because these detectives were able to use genealogical information, they already had information on this girl's cousin. They called her. She then took her profile and uploaded it into GEDmatch, and that gave them the additional step that they needed to solve this cold case. So yes, they do just reach out to people and say, hey, we need your help. And most of the time people will say yes. There's not a lot of people that would deny solving something like this. That's just the truth. This process leads to a pool of individuals rather than one specific individual. The possibility of other relatives who might be similar to Mr. Kohberger is extremely important to the defense in this case. The processes used in this method of identification may be extremely important to Mr. Kohberger's defense. The timing and steps utilized are extremely important to Mr. Kohberger's case, investigation, and defense. Yes, exactly, it is. I have reviewed a copy of an Idaho State Police announcement dated July 28, 2021, that the Idaho State Police Forensic Services Laboratory secured a grant to fund genetic genealogy testing for unsolved Idaho cases. See attached exhibit. And I did look at that, and it's interesting because it is the contract with Othram Labs. So Ann Taylor isn't just dropping huge nuclear bombs of information in this. We now have confirmation. It was Othram. No doubt about it. It's right there, black and white. Okay. The U.S. Department of Justice issued its interim policy for forensic genetic genealogy DNA analysis and search in 2019. The policy describes the process that law enforcement engages in during these searches and the results and limitations of the method. The identified individuals are one or more genetic associations. That means that the donor of the forensic or reference sample may be related to a service user, which may require additional investigative work and testing. If a suspect is identified, the agency is required to retain FGG profiles, account information, and data for potential use during prosecution and subsequent judicial proceedings. See attached Exhibit B. Now, there's a bunch. This is a 26-page document, and there is a bunch of attachments. These are those attachments. And I kind of skimmed through them a little bit, so I knew exactly the subjects, the titles of the pages. Yes, she has the exact information proving that whenever these genealogical testings are done, the information is supposed to be documented. They're supposed to keep documents and notes, and everything that they did is supposed to be put together in a case file. She is basically stating here, y'all messed up. And now here's the proof. I love it whenever people bring receipts. A new collaborative, National Technology Validation and Implementation Collaborative, was established in 2022. Its purpose is to collect and formulate methods and policy for labs and law enforcement to establish forensic investigative genetic genealogy programs. This collaborative contributed to a forensic science journal. The publication includes contributors from Idaho, a whole bunch of stuff, Of particular note is the policy of reference of information in accordance with rules of discovery. See attached Exhibit C. And we will look at those attachments probably in another video, unless the details that she's referencing are already in here, then there's kind of like no point, but I'll probably still look through them more in depth myself. If anything special comes out as usual, then I'll let you guys know. I am aware of specific news reports in this case regarding Mr. Kohberger's DNA as published by the New York Times on June 11th of 2023, that FBI personnel worked with the profile that Othram had produced, spending days building out a family tree that began with distant relatives. The New York Times sources have more information than the state has disclosed to the defense. This New York Times article generated intense media coverage and interest, the scope of which is explained in the True Scope report attached as Exhibit D. In addition, Mr. Kohberger's defense team has discussed the use of statistics in this type of case with experts who have informed me that the manner of identifying Mr. Kohberger via this type of search may have significant impacts on the statistical analysis of the CODIS profile generated by the Idaho State Police Lab. Interesting that CODIS is being used right here, because we were told from the beginning that there was no hits whatsoever in CODIS. So why are they using the CODIS? Unless it's just the type of profile created was like based on the programming for how CODIS uses the DNA and it has to be implemented a certain way, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll figure that part out. Without access to the actual genetic genealogy search methods and results, it is impossible for qualified experts to address these issues, right? Okay, the defense cannot have anyone look over what the state would have actually needed to have in this in order for anyone on the defense's side to verify the work was done correctly, because they don't have it. it doesn't exist. It's so ridiculous. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger notes that the state utilized a statistical analysis number to claim a high likelihood of a match between the DNA on the sheath and that of Mr. Kohberger. The state, by its own admission, has taken a number of steps to identify Mr. Kohberger as a match. The statistical probability is not an absolute. The size of comparison sample and the nature of the search are important to ascertain conclusion bias. Mr. Kohberger has a right to effective assistance of counsel. He has a right to confront evidence. Damn straight. Counsel must undertake a thorough investigation of all parts of this case the state brings against Mr. Kohberger. As such, the genetic genealogy investigation and process is necessary for the defense team to do its job. Yes, yes, yes. I've been saying that. That is duh. Yes, that is what I have been saying. Okay. Now, this is the information about them getting the grant and the information about Othram Labs. And this is the, yep, this is all of this with the type of DNA, with the CODIS DNA. All of this stuff is in here. The limitations, this is the policy that the DOJ created. It has all of the rules, everything that is supposed to be followed. Now, this must be Exhibit C. Yeah, the National Technology Validation. Yep, that thing. This is a lot to look at. Geez, look, these little BO words. But they put the basis of the reason why they were referencing all that stuff in there. And here's the Mike Baker article. That was the declaration of Ann Taylor. Now, there are two more that were posted, and they're all very long. So I'm going to do them one at a time. I'm going to go ahead and do all of the recording of them now, but do the editing and the actual posting of them separately. So this Ann Taylor one will be number one. And then the next video after that will be the declaration of Bicca Barlow in support of the defendant's third motion to compel. And then the third one will be the declaration of Stephen B. Mercer in support of the defendant's third motion to compel. Because like I stated, there's a lot going on. There is a lot. So we're going to try to break this down a little bit just to make it a little bit more clear. See y'all.